Hi everyone, happy Space Week. It's Rob here from MTU's Black Rock Castle Observatory, and today we're going to be taking a tour of the night sky for the week ahead so that you guys have an idea of what to watch out for, sort of like a stellar forecast. So let's get right to it. To begin with, let's find our date and time over here. So it's the 5th of October 2023, and it's about 8 o'clock and we're looking due south. Now, what I want you to realize is that as I jump forward in time here, to the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, all the way through Space Week, nothing up here in the night sky moves very far at all, relative to each other at least. It moves ever so slightly to the west. So even though I'm using the 5th as our example, everything I'm teaching you here today is applicable throughout Space Week. So let's take a quick zoom out and look at the entire night sky. Now there's a lot going on there. Trying to learn about all of it all at once would be incredibly intimidating. So let's just focus on one area for now. I want you to look over here to the northwest. So we're going to start with this guy because if you paid attention last year, you learned all about this little asterism, the plow, and how you can use it to help you find Polaris, the North Star. This year, we're going to use it to head in the other direction. And this is a really useful way to navigate the night skies, to find one thing that you're familiar with and then use it as a frame of reference to hop to something new. So as I said, this is the plow, the asterism. And what we're going to learn about today is the guy that's pushing the plow. He's Bodes. So to find Bodes, I'm going to get rid of the constellation lines again. Treat this as a question mark. So come in from the top of the curve all the way around, and then in a straight line out, you're going to come across this kind of diamond pattern here in the sky. You might not be able to pick out the entire diamond pattern, but you will notice this star down here. It's incredibly bright, Arcturus. Arcturus makes up the base of the constellation, Bodes, so you want to look for this kind of kite shape above it. And that is what makes up Bodes. So we'll throw on the constellation art so that you can see this guy. He's the guy pushing the plow, which is kind of cool. But as I said, you can then use him to help you find another constellation again. So let's get rid of that art again and revisit this diamond pattern. If you look for the top left corner of that diamond, just over here to the left, you've got this C shape, like a horseshoe. And that is the corona borealis. So it's like a crown. So you can see that as we look a little bit closer. And we can go a step further again. It's a very simple constellation, but it's not one that a lot of people know. But if you find that, you're going to find this kind of square shape over here, and over time you might be able to pick off the other connected stars. But this stick figure looking thing here is actually of a really cool hero from Greek and Roman mythology, Hercules, or Heracles, depending on which of the two mythologies you subscribe to. We're going to throw on the constellation art to see what he's up to, and as you can see, he's having a tough old time of it. He's wrestling with the Hydra. So if you're familiar with the Marvel movies and the bad guys, the Hydra, in mythology, if you cut the head off it, more heads grew back. So that's kind of where the link to Hydra in the movies comes from. At his feet, there's even more snakes going on. Now, it looks like a dragon, but Draco is often depicted as a snake. And if you get rid of the constellation art, it looks even more like a snake here. So Draco is a dragon or a serpent defeated by Hercules, so he spends eternity stepping on its head. Even more strangely, there's another snake in the sky, right next to Hercules again. This guy over here. This is Serpens. Now, it's not the most, amazing of constellations. It's quite straightforward, except that there is something unique about this. It's the only constellation I'm aware of that's broken in two. So it starts off over here and continues back here. So that's the head of the snake, and that is the tail of the snake. And what breaks it up is Ophiuchus, the serpent bearer. So we'll throw up the artwork here so that you get a better idea of what we're talking about. And as you can see, Ophiuchus here is wrestling with the snake, and you can make out where the tail is relative to the head. So that's kind of cool to think that there are so many snakes in that one area of the sky. The other thing I like about learning to identify some new constellations is that you can figure out where some deep sky objects are, that even though you might not be able to see them with the naked eye, you know where they are, and it's a kind of a humbling thing to know. So let's have a look here at the elbow of Hercules for the Hercules cluster. So it does not look like much, does it? But as we zoom in, watch what's hidden in there. Look at that. all of these galaxies and stars. It's incredible to think that there is so much going on in that one pinprick of the night sky. Absolutely beautiful. Of course, the only thing that I haven't looked at yet that most people are very interested in when they're looking in the night sky for the first time is a planet. And you've got a few of those available to look for during Space Week as well. So the first of the planets that will be easy enough to see is Saturn. Now, I say easy enough to see because it's up high and there's a decent chance of spotting it, but it is also the dimmest of the naked eye planets. There's 5 that you can see with the naked eye. So if you can't see it during Space Week, don't worry too much. It is the trickier one to see because it's so faint it's quite difficult to discern from other stars. But as the night progresses over here in the east, so we'll jump forward in time a little bit to help bring it about. There we go, to 9 o'clock. You've got Jupiter. So we've got to 10:15 by now, actually, I should say. Due east, you've got this big bright star that is almost impossible to confuse with anything else. That's Jupiter. Now you might confuse it with Capella over here if you got unlucky, but what you got to do then is just look for this here, the Pleiades. So the Pleiades look a little bit like an inverted triangle, like a Christmas tree, and if they're to the left of the star you're looking at, they're Jupiter. If they're to the right of it, you're looking at Capella. So just look due east and there you're going to have Jupiter. So there you go, there's 2 planets that you can see with the naked eye. Now, if you're particularly lucky and on a telescope or even a decent pair of binoculars, actually, you can see Saturn in a little bit more detail. So if we were to zoom in here, this is what you might see if you had a strong pair of binoculars. You might just about be able to make out that it's not spherical, there's a bit more to it. It's a slightly irregular shape. And then through a telescope, you'll be able to make out the rings a little bit better. Not particularly well, to be honest, even with a ground-based telescope. It's never going to be an incredible detail without a huge telescope, but it's still really exciting to see. Saturn's probably the planet that people get most excited about when we show them in the observatory because the rings really add to that 3-dimensional effect. And for those of you who might be living in dark sky areas, there is one final thing that you might be able to see that's worth looking out for. It's not the easiest time of the year to see it, so don't worry too much, but it's this wispy, smoky structure here. That's part of the Milky Way. Now the Milky Way is usually easier to see at other times of the year. If I get rid of the ground here, you can see there's a lot more to it. This big white streak here is our home galaxy. But at this time of the year, you can just make out that narrow little piece of it there heading up over the sky. You're not going to see that unless you live in a dark sky area, but Space Week is a fantastic time to learn about dark sky areas and why we should be protecting them. Ireland is really lucky to have a couple of exceptional dark sky areas, such as the Kerry International Dark Sky Reserve and the Mayo Dark Sky Park. So I highly encourage you to learn about those during Space Week and maybe even pay a visit. So that's everything that I've got for you today. I hope it's going to keep you busy over Space Week. Of course, if you have any questions, you can always reach out to us at Blackrock Castle Observatory or on the Space Week social media channels. Have a great time during Space Week and check out the Space Week website for other resources and other events near you during the week. Thanks very much and talk soon.